insightful, but are you likable? You got jokes, you're the host, stand up. Are you likable?
Sorry, what were we saying?
Oh, I think we were just talking about how some of the crime cases from honestly like the 1800s and up, but into like the 80s and then some of the 90s are more interesting because there's more room for the offender to get away with stuff for longer. And the more that people get away with stuff longer, the more asinine their behavior. And so I think that's some of the more interesting cases. And you have more interesting investigations because of the old school police work that detectives were forced to do back in the old days.
And also, like, as the episode that you sent me to listen to, which is batshit crazy.
I know. I need to do like a quick recap for your listeners.
Of course. We'll get into it. But like, I think it's interesting. Not only is the technology not there, because like, you know, this person moves from town to town, because there's no like social media or anything like that for people to communicate. But also there's like this, like, I want to call it like maybe some misogyny or just stuff from like the detectives and all that kind of stuff that are just like, oh, she's innocent because, you know, it's just like, there's no way that lady could be doing this.
Sweet, well-dressed, well-put-together woman.
Yeah, she was also very attractive.
Yes.
So, yeah. Do you want to do a recap of the ep? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you do like any like, so I'm speaking to so-and-so?
Oh, you know what? I should do that.
Do you
You're
want
right. You just jumped right into it. You threw me off my guard.
Sorry, I'm just ready to talk.
Cool. Hello and welcome to Likeable, a show where we discuss stand-up comedy from an entry-level perspective. Today, I am joined by not a stand-up comedian.
Definitely not a stand-up comedian.
Nope. We're joined by Jessie Pray of the Love Murder podcast. And Jessie is here today because in stand-up comedy, there are many comedians that are very interested in starting a podcast. Me. But Jessie has taken her podcast from nothing, along with her co-host, Andie, sorry. It auto-corrected to Andie. Along with her co-host, Andie.
Yeah, we're just two chicks with boy names. Jessie and Andie.
Totally.
Yeah.
Actually, it's very Toy Story-esque.
It is indeed.
Is your producer's name Buzz?
No, we were best friends for, we've been best friends for a little over 20 years now. So I think we predate Toy Story. When did the first Toy Story come out?
90-something.
Okay, so maybe not. Maybe not predate Toy Story. But yeah, we named ourselves after Toy Story.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We should have. I mean, who wouldn't? You should put Andie on the bottom of your shoe.
There we go.
Yeah. So is it Andie IE or just?
We're both IEs.
IEs.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how you know.
That's how you know it's a girl name.
Yep, femme. Yeah, very femme with the IEs. But you guys have an amazing podcast. We met at the gym.
Yes, we did.
Your trainer is my good friend Michael, who is a human dog.
He is the nicest guy who has been roped into true crime now because he trains me and because his girlfriend Shannon listens to the show. And so I think it's against his will that he has listened to our episodes.
As he does anything outside of cars and dinosaurs.
Yeah.
It is against his will.
He described coming home one day in the winter and like Shannon's like this sweet scene going on. There's like the wood burning stove and she's cozy and like eating some ice cream and there's like some Christmas lights up and then it's like our show talking about people's heads getting cut off. So Mike is a very good friend of Dave's and now a good friend of mine because I have to, pay people to be my friends and he's my trainer.
Yeah, exactly. Not too bad, right? Yeah.
He laughs at my jokes. So
yeah.
I think that's why we both like him.
Yeah. He is a very easy laugh.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's very nice. I miss working with him as much as I used to because I was never more confident as a comedian. Even though I wasn't a comic back then, he was still a killer audience.
Yeah, he acknowledges that too. He's like, I'm just an easy mark. And I was like, wait, I'm not hilarious?
I put him, I try to get him in the front row for the comedy shows at the Krog because it's like a great confidence booster.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if he's in all the photos, he's just like holding his face, It's very fun. But y'all have a great podcast, and we'll love to talk about how it started, how we got where we went. But yeah, it's been cool meeting you at the gym, and I've been privately picking your brain about random stuff, and hopefully we can talk about that on this show.
I think podcasting in general, even when you're not in the comedy field, I would imagine is a lot like trying to be in comedy, because everything is kind of evolving and you're constantly working on your craft, and it's all out there for people to see.
Yes.
So your first sets are out there, and then as you evolve and you get better at your material, it's all there. I was talking to somebody who has been a listener from the beginning, which I'll give you guys a little backstory. But we didn't know what we were doing when we started. And a longtime listener was like, wow, I was listening to this early episode and you guys were completely unhinged. And I said, it was like, they say dance like no one's watching. I was like, we were podcasting like no one is listening.
Yeah.
And probably at the time there was like 3 people listening. So that's why. But yeah, what happened for us was what happened, I think, for a lot of people. The pandemic.
Okay.
So I was at a really unique place in my life at the time. I had just moved from San Francisco with my husband. We had our first child, and I was trying to figure out where I wanted my career to go after that, because I'd been in sales and marketing for startups back in San Francisco, and then we originally moved to Millerton before we moved to Rhinebeck. And so Millerton's where the podcast started.
Gross.
And so I was there, and then I think the pandemic started. I had a little kid, like she was about a year old at the time. And I was just going on very frequent walks with her, hikes, and I had this adorable baby who's sitting in a stroller, and I'd be walking by people and they'd be like, oh my gosh, look at this lovely mother and daughter. And in my ears were other people's true crime podcasts. So like they're looking at this adorable baby and I'm smiling and walking by, and it was like, and then he did this to her. And I don't know why. It was just like the hobby of the beginning of my pandemic experience of just being holed up with my baby. And I was complaining to my husband about certain aspects of certain true crime podcasts, which is that I think that there was a lot of focus on serial killers, when statistically, especially women, are way more likely to be killed by their spouse or an intimate partner.
Oh, yeah.
And I was also really interested in everything that came before the murder. I felt like a lot of true crime podcasts focused on the murder itself.
Yep.
And sometimes the investigation or perhaps the trial. But there was no idea or no concern given to the life that the victim led up until that point.
Fair. Also, because I did study a lot of serial killers in college, when they cover the serial killers, they do not put a lot of attention on the victims, because it's just a note. Tally. Yeah. But also, like, they don't talk about a lot of leading up to the murder, I think, because there isn't a lot of lead up to the murder. Like, Ted Bundy would just like, oh, my arm's hurt, can you help me get in my car? And then, never heard from again, Yeah,
and therefore, it's basically they had nothing to do with the killer up until that point when they were targeted by them. And usually they're chosen for superficial reasons. They look a certain way, or they look small enough that they can be attacked easily, or whatever it is, whatever that serial killer's MO and type is. I was more interested in the kind of normal people that murdered, the people that people know, like they were like, that was my neighbor, that was my cousin. People who don't necessarily have a ton of mental health issues or a drive to kill in the same way serial killers do. So what would result in a person like that killing, and especially killing the person that they love the most or that they had sworn to love? And what are those factors? So I was really compelled by seeking out this information. At the time, I was considering going back to school for marriage and family therapy.
Okay.
I was more interested in the whole idea of love and how it can go so wrong. Because until I got married, I was fascinated about how people actually found somebody to want to commit to for the rest of their lives. Because I didn't know if that was going to happen to me. And then it did happen. And then I was like, okay, well, is he going to kill me now?
It's almost like is it too good to be true situation.
What is the worst case scenario constantly? And so I was interested in marriage and family therapy, how these love stories end up either in counseling, and whether you can repair that rift and get back to a baseline level of love and respect? Or how bad can it actually get? So that's kind of where Love Murder came from. I was separated from my best friend. She lives in LA. I live here in the Hudson Valley.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But she works in fashion, so she was in New York City all the time. But then the pandemic stopped that, obviously. So we were just kind of like lonely, and we started listening to the same true crime podcasts and then calling each other and talking about them. And my husband already had a podcast, so his name's Nathaniel. He goes by NLW, and he had a crypto podcast at the time. Now he has an AI podcast. He wisely just switches to whatever is the most interesting and controversial
Smart guy.
technology of the moment.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what's more morally bankrupt, you working in crypto and AI or me telling murder stories, but...
That is a good conversation to have.
It could go either way.
Ruining lives either way.
Yeah. So he had all the equipment, and he was like, look, you're not going back to school anytime soon. We don't know when the pandemic is ending. Why don't you start your own podcast? And I knew that I believed that I could tell people's stories respectfully, with a great attention of detail, and trying to illustrate more of the victims' lives, and even trying to highlight some of the red flags that happen in relationships, that happen in even very ordinary relationships that do not end up on a true crime podcast.
Yeah.
That are really toxic and are hallmarks of maybe bad things to come. But I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't have a title for it, and I had only one friend who would be willing, and we have a very easy rapport. So I had to get her on board, first of all, and she was like an instant, fuck yes, let's do this, and like really insulted that I had considered anyone else at all to be my co-host, because I had a couple of friends who were like in journalism or had experience in reporting in some way. And I was like, I was thinking about this person, but then, I was talking to Nathaniel, and I just think she's like, how dare you? And even that response, I think, is telling about why our dynamic works. She is not afraid to call me out on anything. And she really brings a lot of spark to the show. So we just started talking about true crime, and the way it kind of boiled out how it kind of turned out is that I did all of the writing and research, and I just told my friend a story that she had no idea what I was talking about, so I got some very genuine reactions from Andie.
Yeah.
And that was the way it was for, I think, like the first 2-3 years. And now she'll narrate like once every 7th episode, but still I'm usually in the narrator's seat. And it was not supposed to have a comedic element.
Really?
No. So you guys are here for a comedy podcast. And if you do listen to Love Murder, you will note that there's a lot of pointing out of absurd situations and horrible people, and a shocking number of sex jokes for a true crime podcast.
Yeah. But comedy, is based off of absurd situations and horrible people. So,
yes. And that's why there's a lot of people who don't think true crime and comedy go together because of, the respect owed to the victim, obviously. But it's kind of an area that's also just very fertile for comedy, because the people are so horrible, just so absolutely horrible. And especially in our type of show where people are having affairs and they're, in court, all of these like sex or like these horrific love letters are coming out and like describing their bodies. There's been cases where there's like close up of like the murderer's asshole is like part of like the evidence that they're like blowing up on a big screen at trial in front of a jury, and like the murderer's mom who's like, yeah, that's my daughter's asshole. So there's just so much real life about true crime that unfortunately can be kind of humorous, and it's about, especially in this genre, trying to find that balance of making sure that you're telling a true story, that you're honoring the victim's life, but you're also like, it's okay to dunk on the murderer a little bit.
For sure. Have you ever had a victim's family member like reach out?
Yeah, so I've spoken with several victims' family members, and it has been almost entirely positive.
Okay, that's awesome.
Which has been great. Yeah, I remember it was probably pretty early, and now I've since worked with some victims' families to produce the episodes. But early on, and for the most part, I get a lot of my research from true crime books, and I work in concert with true crime authors, so they can like publish a book, and I'll promote it. But I also use their like months and
smart.
years of research,
because
I only do a case every week. I don't have as much time to do the deep journalistic approach. So it's kind of a synergistic.
I think synergistic.
Synergistic.
Synergetic.
Synergetic. Something like synergistic. Something like that. Relationship.
Strong talkers. No.
I learned all of my words from reading and not from speaking. So here we are.
True.
And now it's my job to speak. So I don't know if I'm in the right field.
It's the quinoa effect.
So it's a good relationship I have with some true crime authors. But one of the mothers of a victim reached out to me after, I think, our 16th episode. Yeah, it was right around 16. And she was actually very sweet. She was like, I think you really, approached who she was, who Erin was, very well, and sent me some videos of her training her cat, because I'd mentioned how much she loved animals on the show. And she said she listened to every single thing, every piece of media about her daughter's case, even though it had been years and years, and she appreciated the direction we had taken with it. I think that there was only one negative, and now we've done I think we just recorded 306. So we've done 306 main cases, and then we cover some current affairs, is what we call them. They're like little mini episodes where we talk about things that are going on right now.
Yeah, and you do like follow-up episodes too, right?
Every once in a while. We do follow-up, especially on the current affairs. Our main episodes are usually cases that have been resolved for many years. Mm-hmm. I forgot what I was there, because I thought I was going to pour something all over your recording equipment.
I would have died. This would have been a murder.
Murder. Okay, talking about victims' parents.
Reaching out, only one negative.
Oh, yes. So I only had one negative response. And it was very interestingly from a woman who survived her husband taking out a hit on her. And then I used her own book and promoted it. So a book she wrote about the experience, which the book was titled Help, My Husband's Trying to Kill Me, which did not bury the lead. It's a great book. But it was her daughter. And she just said, hey, can you take down the Instagram post promoting the episode? Because her mom didn't want the first thing to come up when you Googled her to be a true crime podcast social media post about an episode.
Oh, interesting.
And that was it. And I was like, okay, great. And I was like, are you comfortable with me keeping the episode up? And they were fine with that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe this is just like comedically? I try to think about the other. Do you think like the family of the victims or in the case are just like another person reached out, got a pretty it was a pretty good case they got there. They just get some kind of like
So I don't know.
some kind of ego about it.
I've heard from there was a recent case where there was a witness involved. So it was essentially a guy. This was a throuple murder situation, and the surviving members of the throuple were pointing the fingers at each other. And there was a friend of theirs that they went to after the murder took place, and he was the one who kind of figured out that something was seriously fucking wrong. And so later he wrote, and he like went on our socials, and he was talking to people, and he like gave me so much more background, and he was like, you got pretty much almost everything right. I'm going to listen to other shows of yours because of that. And he was telling me about like other shows who didn't get it right. And I thought it was crazy. Like, he's very involved in everything that goes on about the case that he was involved in and that he had to testify at trial. And I think that there's other families and people who are involved in cases who do not listen, do not want
the reminder.
They don't want to remember that time of their life. So it is very hit or miss. But I definitely think that I have considered that the mother or the sister or the daughter or the son, brother, whoever it is of the victim that I'm speaking about is listening. And I always podcast as if they are. Because people deserve dignity, and they deserve to have their story told in ways that are about how they lived, not just how they died.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. It's like there are I mean, I've only studied like serial killers really. So, I mean, I think like there is like a lot of attention put on the serial killer, and sometimes there is this is related but not, sometimes they're almost glorified because they talk about the killer more than they talk about the victim, and then it's just like, you know, then you get copycats and all that kind of stuff too. But it's just like, man, I just died in your arms tonight. Must have been something. Oh, hey, didn't see you there. This episode is this is going great. I think a lot of I'm going to use this clip on like every episode going forward. I think because those vocals just hit, dude, fucking hit. It's like amazing how good those vocals are. This is the a different interruptible to let you know to subscribe to our Instagram at Likeable Pod. People tell me Likeable spelt wrong, and I'm not looking into it. I like it like this, you know, because I get an A in the Likeable. It's I get an A in likability. That's what they say. Scientists have said that. And also, if you're listening to this and you're annoyed or anything like that, you know, that's fine. I'm sorry that we're doing this. We got to plug the YouTube at David Stickle Comedy for the YouTube. I drop episodes on there every Wednesday, and you can see the video form of this. You can see my face, the guest's face, which is probably what you're actually wanting to see. Probably pretty tired of seeing my face at this point in time. I'm sorry about it. I'm ugly. Anyways, this could have been 10 seconds long, but here we are. We're doing this. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds right now. But yeah, check out the YouTube. Every week it drops consistently. I can control that. Sometimes radio free, there's like holidays or something comes up and it might be a little delayed, which is totally fine. Now, if you want to stick to the audio, totally cool. I love boosting those numbers. But yeah, if you want to check out the YouTube at David Stickle Comedy, and you could see video of us, but check out the Instagram if you can for clips. That would be great. Okay. I'm just going to die in your arms tonight, I guess, if you don't subscribe. Anything that person feels, because they're like, you know, the victim's family member feels, because like, you know, like, you know, Anne Rule wrote a book called The Stranger Beside Me about Ted Bundy, and talks about like how cool of a guy he was, and like, you know, how handsome he, and like really just plays up how it all like worked, how he did it, you know. But like, you know, sometimes it makes the victims sound like they were just women that were easily duped and not like human beings, you know. So yeah, I think it's interesting to pay attention to, hey, that person's family member might read this, you know, because it's about what happened.
And I think we're moving on from that as a society in a great way. I think that there was a term for sex workers that they used to call the less dead, as if like you could tell the story of a sex worker getting killed and their life didn't matter because they were putting themselves in harm's way in their profession, you know. And since that feeling that occurred, I think in like the 80s and 90s, especially in any sort of old true crime format, things have changed a lot. And I think that now, especially with like the Gilgo Beach serial killer, I've actually listened to a lot of podcasts that focus a lot on the lives of the women who were killed. And I appreciate that we're changing as a society for that reason. Mm-hmm. I had a really interesting guest on the show once. We did an interview with her, Dr. Jan Canty. And her husband was in a relationship with a sex worker. She had no idea. So she was a young graduate student who was, I think, getting accredited and was busy building her own career with her husband, who was something like 20 years older than her, I believe. I think he was a well-known psychologist, very well respected in his field, and they had kind of connected about that as she was becoming a therapist and psychiatrist. And she thought that their life was just going along and it was great. And then she finds out for, I think, more than a year, her husband had been having a long affair with this very young sex worker, and he had completely depleted their savings because the sex worker's boyfriend, who was her pimp, had gotten involved and kept demanding more and more money from this guy. And when he had cleaned out all of their accounts, unknown to this young woman who he's married to, they killed him. And then they cut off his head, and then they basically took parts of him and just like threw him down the highway. So she had to grapple with the fact that her husband was murdered. And then throughout the investigation, she finds also out that he had been having a long-term affair, and she had been letting him manage the finances, and now she has nothing. They're completely broke because he had spent all of their money on this.
Like rock bottom.
Yeah, and then there was a lot of media attention. Now, it was different because I think this case took place in the 80s, but it was a different type of media, like the news cameras in your face 24/7. They weren't supposed to get in for his funeral, and they were like breaking in, or people were sneaking into the church. And she talked about that experience, like the violation of the media wanting to speak with her, or wanting some, like, that they were deserved this bit of her while she was grieving for her husband and coming to terms with the fact that he had been unfaithful. And the concern about sexually transmitted diseases, and all of this was going on for her at the same time. And she's become a real victim's advocate, a homicide survivor's advocate. And so she came on the show and we talked all about her experience. And it was pretty eye-opening because she had a lot to say about the glorification of serial killers and trying to change, the entertainment portion of certain true crime podcasts. And we are part of that because I do know that so many people listen to us for entertainment.
Yeah.
But, being careful about language and all the different ways you can honor victims. And I did ask her about forgiveness, because is it important, like, to a grieving process, to forgive, let's say, the person that murdered your loved one? Or in her case, has she forgiven her husband because he did lie to her and he did cheat on her, and the result of those actions were that he was killed? And she was like, I don't believe you need to forgive. She's like, you don't need to forgive for healing. Like, if you want to hold on to it, hold on to it. And it's funny because everyone else I've ever talked to has been like, oh, I felt so much better after I just forgave this person, and it's not for them, it's for me. She's like, oh, fuck no, hang on to that shit.
That's probably what fuels her advocacy for the victims, Yeah. That's so interesting. You mentioned people listening for entertainment. Do you ever wonder or get curious if people are listening for education?
Well, we have had that too.
When I say that, I mean someone who's planning a murder. And it's just like, how did they get caught? How can we figure this out?
I think it's education for women.
Okay.
I think at least our demographics are something like 89% female listeners.
Nice.
And I think across the board, it is mostly women who are more interested in true crime. There's a great tweet about this. Somebody said, I don't know why women all love watching true crime. It's like a chicken watching the food channel.
Okay, yeah, that's funny.
It's like, when women are disproportionately the victims on these shows, why would there be so much interest? And so I think the education part comes from finding out, what do I need to do to not get murdered? Whether that's making sure the door is locked and not going jogging and not like putting in your headphones when you're walking down the street and making sure you have pepper spray. If like it's, you're concerned about somebody like a serial killer attacking you, don't go anywhere with strangers. Don't go to a second location.
I'm so big. I don't worry about it. People like you should. Yeah. I'm big. If they killed me, they earned it, like they really earned it. It makes me think about what you were just saying. It makes me think about Shannon watching these podcasts or listening to you guys and then being like, how do I protect myself from Mike? Well,
one thing that I found out, and I think it was that same episode I was talking about earlier, was she was pregnant in the episode, the young woman. And I found out that the number one cause of homicide for pregnant women is homicide. It's murder. It's not like I was thinking, oh, there's so many complications that can happen to you medically when you're pregnant. No, it's murder. Murder is number one for pregnant women. And something like 9 times out of 10, it's the baby daddy. It's the father of the child, or it's the partner who was with the woman, and maybe, biologically the child's not his, but it's always an intimate partner, almost always, except for the rare cases that it's somebody trying to like steal the baby.
Yeah, that's. I mean, learning that it's all strangers. It's never a stranger.
Yeah, it's never a stranger.
Was like a big weight off my shoulders when it came to like moving around freely in society, because then it's just like, all right, I just have to worry when I'm home,
and you have to worry about the people who have any reason, like life insurance policy on you.
Yeah, so that seems to be a theme in your show.
It's a huge theme.
When I start listening to an episode, I wait for the life insurance policy, and I'm just like, all right, there it was.
There we go.
Those are the payments that never stop. Yeah,
truly. So when we first started the show, I had imagined that it was going to be more crimes of passion, like people catching people cheating or just emotions running high. And occasionally we get that, but it is more premeditated thought process for money than you would think about why people may be inclined to murder their spouse.
I think that's what maybe sometimes people use to justify it. They're like, well, I mean, and I'd get money.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's always. I mean, I don't know how your relationship works, but I'm sure you've thought about it.
No, the only thing I think about in my relationship is that if my husband dies in any mysterious way, I'm totally fucked.
That's so
the
true.
only thing I can think of, because I have a long running true crime podcast at this point. It'll be 6 years in July.
Congrats.
Thank you. And it's literally only about people murdering their spouses. And he has a sizable life insurance policy because he's, a responsible guy who wants to make sure that if anything happens to him, me and the kids are taken care of. I'm like, you better die in the most obvious way with other witnesses around or like a clear medical condition. Because if there's any like even falling down the stairs, I am so screwed.
That's so funny. Well, I mean, you'd be very easy to frame.
Very easy to frame.
Very frameable.
Oh no! If anyone has it out for me, they know how to get me now.
So I'm changing the Likeable podcast to Frameable. And, yeah, that's what you will be today. Do you? Well, we'll talk about the growth of the pod soon, but like, do you? We want to talk about like your favorite episode or the one you sent me?
So I did send Dave. I did send you an episode that I remember researching. I hate to re-listen to myself, so I don't know. I don't remember exactly what made it onto the show that time, but I cannot forget the story. And it is kind of sad because I've been focusing so much in this conversation about talking about the victims and how important it is that the victims are known and honored. But in this case, in this episode, it was, I think, our 47th episode, Audrey Marie Hilley is definitely the perpetrator that is why this episode is so batshit crazy. And I have found in general that the women killers are way more bananas than any of the stuff the men do for whatever reason. Maybe it is because they get away with it longer or they seem unassuming in some way. But Audrey Marie Hilley was essentially a 1950s housewife from Alabama who had always been known for her good looks and graces. And she got married really young. They had a family. And eventually she kind of grew tired of her husband. She was getting up there in the age. Her kids are starting to grow up and move out of the home. And she was looking for a good time. So she started having affairs. She started doing a little bit of fraud. I found insurance fraud or starting fires are seem to be killer's starter pack.
Yeah. Arson's a good way to...
and insurance fraud are a good way to get started in the murder business.
Test how quickly emergency services arrive. Like, oh, there's a fire and a murder. Yeah.
And Audrey was, well, I guess she went by Marie. Marie was a little bit of a cook, a poor one, because people just seemed to get sick every time she cooked for them. So her husband passes away. And then her son had moved out. He had married. And eventually they had moved back in together, I think due to some fires that she set. And then the daughter-in-law started getting sick. They moved far away, but unfortunately the teenage daughter was still in the home. So she starts getting really sick. And they finally figure out that she has been poisoning everyone in her family with arsenic because she is running behind on the bills. And the one bill she always paid with the life insurance premiums.
Every time.
Every single time. So this woman then manages to fake her own kidnapping, if I recall correctly. And because they're coming for her to arrest her. I think she had actually been arrested and she was out on bail. Faked her own kidnapping.
Wait, can I do an Andie thing while you're talking?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to do it while
Go
you do
for
it.
it.
Keep telling the story. I'm just going to do it. Okay, go ahead.
So she faked her own kidnapping. She somehow escaped. I think she was caught again, escaped again.
What?
That's Andie's pretty much. What? And
What?
whoa.
Whoa. No way.
And if it's really crazy, she calls me Jessica.
That's funny.
Stop it, Jessica. So then she makes her way up to New Hampshire. She'd been in Alabama, Georgia, Florida. She's like every country song you've ever heard. And then she gets up to New Hampshire and she gets a job. She's operating under a totally new name. She gets married. She finds a guy. She's working at this screw factory of all places. And then she gets cancer, sadly.
Oh.
But not real cancer, fake cancer.
Fake cancer.
Fake cancer, but it feels very real to everyone around her.
Of course.
She's got some great stories about who she's seeing and specialists, and she finally tells her husband and the company she has to take a leave of absence because she's going to go, I think, to Texas or somewhere where her twin sister, now this woman does not have a twin sister,
What?
is going to take care of her. And then my favorite part was that she eventually got bored or didn't enjoy her life wherever she was hiding out and decided to come back to New Hampshire posing as her own fake twin sister.
No way.
Are you auditioning to be my new co-host?
I'm there just in case anything mysterious happens to Andie and we may or may not have taken out a life insurance policy.
So my question to you, having listened to the episode, do you think the husband knew he was bagging his original wife, or did he really think this was a fun new person, the twin sister of his dead wife?
So I've got 15 minutes left. So I do have a follow-up question
Okay.
that I do want to ask, which I'm struggling to remember. But you guys did mention, like, I think Andie actually mentioned that he, like, recognized the vagina.
I don't know if he did, if that was just a joke.
Yeah.
Was he just like, wow, twins really are
yeah,
similar?
that's what you guys were talking about like 5 minutes ago on my way here. So I'm just like, yeah, I wonder if he would. I mean, the husband had to. Boy, I would, maybe the grief like allowed him to like think it was somebody else because it's a lot to process.
Yeah.
But how do you not know?
No.
You know what I mean? Like how? You know, there has to be. I think, you know, the joke about like, oh, it was same position, same all this kind of like the same. They like the same things. Like that's too weird. You know, you gotta, if she's making up separate personalities, separate places, all this kind of stuff, she's got to make up like a new kink. You know, like
yeah, you gotta have a new kink to
like
go
this
along
one's
with this
into
new
butt
personality.
stuff. You know, like sorry.
Is that like improv? You just really gotta
I'm
create.
throwing it out there. Yeah.
Yes, and
Yes, and anal, which is almost how every
it's
new
like,
improv
oh, Robbie
person does.
really wasn't into anal, but Terry is.
Yep, Terry's big. Yep, scary Terry loves
That
the
minx.
yeah, loves the butt. Yeah, so that's I think he probably knew.
I think he had to know.
Had
So
to know.
the line was that he didn't. He said he didn't know the whole time, but then when he found out, he loved her so much that he stood by her anyway.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's something. People
And
should
you
aspire
can't even
for.
get a girl to call you back.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
No, I don't know
Rough.
if that's about Dave. I don't know anything
yeah.
about
That's
your
just a
love
general
life.
joke
That's a
about
general
anybody,
joke
not about me.
anyone.
Definitely not about me.
Not about Dave's sex life.
Yeah, we'd never talk about that on the show.
Oh, is it because it's so funny, or is it
No,
so
it's very
not
sad.
funny?
Very sad.
Yeah.
We have a lot convenient, you know, that we talk about this today. But no, a lot of stuff we're working on there. So yeah, a lot of stuff we're working on there. What the fuck was the question I was going to ask you about this? You also I don't think you mentioned the daughter had a friend who passed away mysteriously.
Yes. So the daughter also had a friend that was around often that
she
became
seemed
mysteriously ill.
Queer leaning, right? That
Yes.
Yes, and the mother didn't really approve of that.
Yeah, the mother didn't approve. And I don't know anything about the friend who passed away, but she particularly did not like that her daughter was I think that she did come out later in life, but at the time she was closeted, but it was clear that that was who she was.
Yeah.
And mom was not on board. Yeah, so it was pretty crazy. And it was sad, too, because there's interviews with the daughter who survives, which is great, except for it's very complicated because she still loved her mom. But there's all this evidence, and she was physically so incredibly ill that her mom had tried to kill her for money.
Yeah.
And what do you do with those complicated feelings when the person that's supposed to love and protect you more than anyone else on the planet is the one trying to kill you for some bucks?
Yeah. There was another episode that I listened to. This is maybe 2 or 3 months ago, but it was this gentleman killed his wife in the bathtub in Chicago, and he like got a bunch of friends to co-sign that he was like with them at the time of the murder, all this kind of stuff. But like, I think what stuck out to me the most about that episode is similar to what you just said, is that like he had 2 daughters. One of them was like, dad's guilty. The other one still struggles with believing that he's capable of that.
Yeah.
Which is just like rough. And it's usually the younger sibling that struggles with that, I think.
It is. I'm working on an episode right now where the children essentially sign over. The insurance company says, no, your dad can't have any of the money he's supposed to get from your mother's death because he's a suspect. And you cannot benefit from a crime you committed. And so he signs it away to his kids, which was the right thing to do anyways, because they were supposed to get the beneficiary. And so the insurance company says, as long as there's proof that there's no way that he's going to get any of this money and it's going directly to the children who are now adults, then fine, they can have the money. And they almost immediately sign it over to their grandparents, who use it for their father's defense.
Wow.
And I think that at least the public perception in that case was that the girls were on their dad's side. And, you know, I can't fault any even grown adult from still supporting their surviving parent, despite overwhelming evidence. It's just, I think people present differently to different people. And
100%.
whoever that version of their dad was to them was not the same person that they're hearing about in court, or maybe even who their mother experienced. So yeah, I can't fault the way anyone grapples with something that no person should ever have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a jarring, shocking thing. Like, until it happens to you, I feel like you can't really understand.
No,
you know?
and I fully understand that. About when I tell the stories, I try to have a lot of sensitivity in between the boner jokes about what these people are experiencing it, because it's something that very few people hopefully will have to go through in their lives. And even when we talk about sometimes the suspect or proven culprit later on, how they react when the police tell them that their loved one is murdered, when sometimes these people knew about it because they did it. You can't really take the reactions of like, people are like, well, suspicious, like right away they didn't cry, or like, it's like everyone responds to grief
100%.
differently, or to news or surprise or shock differently. Like, you can't really intuit anything from those first few moments. You got to go on evidence.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, yeah, I always wonder what would happen if I were in that situation. Like, would I cry? And also, I would also look very suspicious.
Yeah.
You know? Given that I fit the profile of most murderers, you know?
Well, a lot of times murderers have very weak alibis because they say they were like out for a run or a hike or a mountain bike, or like they were doing something that was solo but is like a very reasonable solo activity, where somebody couldn't necessarily alibi them, because you can't say you were shopping. It's like, where's the receipt? You can't say you were out with a friend, because then they'll come down on that friend.
Right.
So I'm somebody who likes to run and hike, and now I've started like, this is so crazy.
You're
but
really
I'm like,
building a case against
I guess
yourself.
myself. But I'm like, I look at cars and I'm like, okay, if like somebody was murdered while I was out on this run, I'll be like, that Audi went by me at this time.
Yeah.
Let's find that person driving the Audi. They can say they saw me.
Yeah. You're just like taking selfies of yourself in random spots to make sure that
just so you know.
you're holding up a newspaper. That was AI. You're like, no, it wasn't. I
People
promise.
listening to this at home are like, she's way more concerned about looking like a murderer rather than being murdered. That's curious.
That is curious. You don't think your husband's ever capable of doing that?
I really don't think so, but you know,
Okay.
that's what they all
I'll
say.
that. Yeah. You're here now. He's like breaking a gas line in your car or something like that. He's like, yep, the brakes won't work when she gets
I know
home.
he's
Yeah.
really smart too, and he usually does the last content edit to make sure Andie and I don't get canceled. So it's like we like have our editor and mixer do all the sound and stuff, and then he just goes through and takes out like some of the jokes that don't really work. So he's listened to all of my episodes too. So I'm like, God damn, he does know everything.
Yeah, he's really aware. Yeah.
We also, both Andie and I found out we were pregnant, I think, right after the morning after we recorded our second or third episode ever. So the entire like first year of the podcast, we were like pregnant and really crazy. But we found out we were pregnant on the same day. And then only a few weeks later, we did the episode I was talking about when I discussed that the number one cause of death for pregnant women is homicide, and it's usually their partners. And we were both like side-eyeing our husbands like, this is crazy. What do we have to worry about here?
Yeah, but if both of you go missing at the same time,
It would be very suspect.
Very suspect.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy you didn't get murdered.
Me
you know?
too. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy you've never been murdered.
Not yet. So a lot of people wish, as I'm learning.
Wait, not so likable?
Not so likable as that is the general theme of this show. That I'm not likable. So how does this Tilly story end?
Oh, so she ends up getting caught, but it's an interesting way because essentially somebody who works at this company, she comes back in and is like, oh, hello, everyone. Robbie was talking about you all so much, and I feel like I know you. And they're all like, am I taking crazy pills, or is this the same bitch? Like, they just don't know what to do with this woman. And so one of her old coworkers is telling, I forget, like some relative or neighbor or something who's a state trooper, like, okay, something is weird here. Like, this woman is definitely pretending to be her own twin sister, and she must have been like on the run from the law or something. So they end up suspecting her of being an entirely different fugitive from the law. It was a woman who I believe was involved in drugs. And so they haul her in, and they're like, do you know why we've detained you, miss? And she's like, my name is Audrey Marie Hilly, and I killed my husband, and you've been looking for me. And they're like, holy shit, no, we didn't even know that.
Wow.
Yeah, so they didn't even know that who she was, or that she had definitely murdered at least one person, it was proven, and had tried to murder a second person, probably more than one person. And so now they have her, and they're like, well, we're going to extradite your ass right back to Alabama. She goes back to Alabama. Her 2 times husband, who married both versions of her, which was actually like her second and third identities, comes with her. He moves down to Alabama so he can live near the prison, because she ends up going to prison for life.
He's still supporting her?
And he's still supporting her, and he's visiting every chance he gets. And this is how charming she was. She was allowed to have breaks from prison where she would get to leave for the weekend and go to a motel nearby with her husband and have like a conjugal weekend.
Legitimate. What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like, why was this allowed? She
Yeah.
had tried to kill many, many people, and she had proven very adept at living life.
And running from the
And
law.
running
She has a
from the
history
law.
of fleeing.
Yes.
That's
So they were like, oh, she's, getting up there in the years, and she's so sweet, and she always comes back.
just law enforcement. Yeah, if she's a dumb broad, she's not going to figure it out 3 times. Like, there's like no fucking way, dude.
So this
That's
guy who
crazy.
has like followed her and taken her back, he gets out of the shower one day when she's on one of these conjugal motel visits, and there's a Dear John. She says, sorry, I can't live the rest of my life like this. I took all the money from your wallet. I'm out. And she's running.
Wow.
But it didn't work out so well for the last time. It turns out there was like a historic cold snap or type of storm that was like literally freezing, or freezing rain, that was very unseasonable for this year, in this part of the year, time of the year in Alabama. And so she was like hiding out in the woods, and she got so deathly ill from being out in the storm, that she like had to crawl to this woman's porch and beg for medical help, even though she knew it was going to mean going back to prison. And it was only something like a mile away from where she had been born. After all these places that she had lived while she was escaping, she'd been all over the United States, and she ends up dying, I think, in the ambulance or in the hospital, like a mile away from where she was born after trying to escape once more.
Huh.
Yeah.
Heavy.
It's a lot. And,
Yeah.
and I think it's pretty heavy for her surviving. Well, both of her children survived, but her daughter, who was nearly killed by her own mother, has all these complicated feelings about grieving your last parent. But even though they were a really, really terrible person.
God, that is... Yeah, that's how you did a hook at the beginning of the episode, because you start with the end.
I actually start with her dying.
Yeah.
And then we go back.
Oh, my God. I remember the question I was going to ask about this case. She gets money so many different ways all throughout the episode, and it's not small lump sums. Where is that going to? Because she bought, like, cars and stuff like that, but I think the only thing that made sense consistently was, like, how well she kept herself.
Yes.
Yeah. So was all that money? She got like 20 grand at some point. Like, is that what it was?
I think it was definitely like cars were the greatest expense. She liked status symbols. So she liked things that made her look put together and well-to-do. Clothes, designer clothes, that sort of thing, taking care of herself. And so even when she was originally on the run, they were telling people who worked at like beauty salons to look out for her because they figured that even with trying to conceal her identity, that she would want to be looking good because it was such a part of her identity. And they were right. And, she's not the only one. There's another case we covered, and then I ended up being a talking head on an investigation discovery show about that case that was caught because the woman was getting her nails done. Yeah. It's a vanity. It'll get you.
This reminds me of a John Mulaney reference, because he was talking about how his dad and him were like trying to get into maybe a Bulls game or something like that. And his dad was always wearing a very nice suit, and he had John dress in a very nice suit, and John was much younger. And then they just walked right past security. And then, John's like, what's going on? And he goes, nobody questions a well-dressed man. And then they just kept going. His dad was a lawyer, It was like, nobody questions a well-dressed man. And it was just like, oh, wow.
It's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess if you keep yourself looking clean,
well, there
you
was, I
seem
think,
less shady.
a point in the episode where she is on the run, and she even like walks into a police station in a different state and is like, I was on a bus and somebody stole my purse and they took everything from me and I have no way of getting back to my family and I don't know what to do. And the police chief of the town put up like a collection plate, like passed it around the church to get money for this poor woman whose all of her earthly belongings had been stolen on a Greyhound bus. And that was while she was actively on the run. Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, I mean, it's significantly harder to do that now. Thank God.
We were just talking about this, about surveillance cameras being everywhere.
Surveillance, and that's why I used to mention this on stage, but it's like trying to compare serial killers of today to serial killers of yesterday is like trying to compare like Michael Jordan to LeBron now. It's like it's just a different game back then.
It was a different game.
Very different game. Yeah.
Truly, some of my favorite episodes to do are frontier type murder, where it was like the fact that they caught these people at all was a miracle, because literally I have good friends of mine who have a show called Going West, because that used to be a term for getting murdered, was going west, because people just would disappear. You had no way of staying in contact with a lot of people, or it was like through the mail. So there's a family called the Benders that were operating essentially a murder farm, where they figured it was a lot easier. They started by having boarders, and then they're like, well, let's find out about these boarders' family. Like, who are they traveling with? They got anyone that's looking for them on the other side, waiting for them? They'd ask some nice questions at dinner. And then there'd be like one behind a curtain that would come and kill the guy. They'd steal from them. And they had like a trap door in the floor that they'd just drop the corpses into. And this went on for like 20 something victims.
Yeah. That's like the plot of like a lot of horror movies.
Yes, yeah. It has been ever since. Yeah.
Holy crap. Bender, by the way, for our local listeners, very well-known name around here. Is it? Yeah, you don't know?
I didn't know.
I'm not going to mention this person. They are a lawyer now, and they would sue me. So, way more money than I will ever have, but they own many buildings in town. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I'm still relatively new, I guess. I've been here for 5 years. I still call it new.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I often wonder where the local line starts. And where,
I know. I just have to continue to raise my children here. Maybe after they graduate, I'll be considered a local.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is, there are people that moved here like after 9/11, and you'll still hear like old locals being like, "They ain't local, they're from the city." It's like, dude, you've been here for 40 years, but you were born in Brooklyn, dude.
Yeah.
Like you can't do that.
Exactly.
Where
like,
is
what
the
line?
hell's wrong with you? Yeah, bastards. All right, we should talk about. So you started you started just recording stuff, and you didn't. You didn't know if it'd become anything.
We released 3 episodes in one go because I remember feeling like my own opinion about podcast was that you have to let the personality grow on you. Mm-hmm. That's why people love to binge shows. They get into just like you go through phases where you like to eat the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. I feel like people get used to certain host voice and their mannerisms or the way they tell a story, let's say.
Okay.
And I found this to be true anecdotally with myself, that I would like to just get on a train and listen. So I was like, I want to put out at least 3 episodes together. So like people can really get to know us over those 3 episodes, and then they can decide whether they want to tune in every week afterwards.
Very cool creative choice on that.
Yeah. So that was kind of how I wanted to launch the show. And then I think, especially because this is a podcast for comedians mostly, mm-hmm. and I'm sure you've already talked about this on previous episodes, you have to find a way of delivering the information that is authentic to who you are. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was starting to get into when I said it wasn't supposed to have a comedic bent. We wanted to tell really interesting stories that still were helpful in the context of like recognizing red flags in romantic relationships, especially because it's mostly a female audience. So it's like, this is ways we're going to talk about this dirtbag guy, and you might recognize your dirtbag boyfriend in this guy, and let's get you out of that relationship before it ends up in murder. So our tagline is trust your gut when it comes to love, so no one ends up murdered. Mm-hmm. We had a different original tagline. I'm like kind of blanking on it now, and I ended up changing it because I didn't want it to be victim blamey at all about like, because like I think it was like we're all just one bad relationship away from getting murdered.
It was probably something much worse.
Yeah, who knows?
You just got love murdered,
Yeah.
Like a gotcha line.
So when we started, the plan was just for me to tell a story to Andie, who she still has like 3 different businesses, so she was really busy. So I'm like, I'll just tell you a story, and you're just supposed to hang out, and we have a glass of wine, and you respond as you would respond to anything about me telling you a story. And some of her responses were just so funny, just sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, and then we would start like riffing on something. And it was a very obvious extension of our natural relationship. And so even though her husband's a musician and he did our music, and the music, intro music and outro music is very intense. It's like I wanted like a 9 Inch Nails vibe kind of.
Okay.
Like I want to fuck you like an animal vibe. And Closer, I think is the name of the song. And he's like, whoa, I thought this was gonna be like an intense, like dark true crime podcast, and you guys are just like making dick jokes, Yeah. And it just kind of just started that way, and we decided to keep up what felt right to us, and I think that's probably what made us different, because so many podcasts started during the pandemic, and especially the true crime market is extremely saturated.
Comedy podcasts are just rough.
Yeah, it's hard to get a foot in the door. So what is it that you're doing that is different or relatable that maybe other people aren't doing? And, we're just 2 white bitches who wanted to maybe highlight intimate partner violence or talk about red flags or find a way to connect with each other and other people who felt disconnected during the pandemic. And there's a lot of podcasts with 2 female hosts out there, and we weren't, psychologists. We weren't comedians. Small Town Murder is a good one if you guys want to find an intersection of true crime and comedy, because the hosts of that show are actually both comedians.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, so you should check them out. They're very, very good. And I on our first show, I was like, we're not like professionals, but like hopefully you like rolling with us, you know, and you like the way we present the stories. And I've done it. I've done my best to make sure everything is completely accurate and as respectful as possible. And I have the most information available to me to present the case and the backstory in the most detail for the audience. But despite all of that work, what people really comment on is the relationship between myself and my co-host.
That's cool.
And that they can really feel the relationship, and it might remind them of their, you know, long distance bestie or their girlfriends or, you know, their cousin or sister or whatnot. And we didn't know that was going to be the case. We didn't really actually know what our selling point was going to be. We just kept showing up and doing the work. I also think my other advice for people trying to break into podcasting or comedy is to treat it like it's a professional job that you're getting paid for, even when you're not. Mm-hmm. Because we didn't make any money for a year.
Yeah.
And I probably could have made money earlier, but both of us had other jobs or financial support that I didn't want to put like some really shitty ads like on the show to only make like, you know, a pittance at the beginning. So I made the call that we weren't going to make any money for a long time until we could get some bigger sponsors.
Sponsors.
Some sponsors.
Very
They're
French.
French.
Sponsors.
We could get some bigger sponsors where we could do the essentially the voice over one, so it was just still our voices talking, so it didn't kind of interrupt the experience. Mm-hmm. So I made some creative decisions. Now it's kind of impossible. We've reached a level where we can potentially make more money off of the ones that sound like radio ads than even the host spoken ones, because you get to a certain level of how big your audience is and that reach, and it kind of starts coming out even.
Okay.
So now we do kind of both types of ads, but I didn't have any sponsorship for a year, and then we didn't start our Patreon for almost 2 years, which is a mistake. I always say start your Patreon earlier than you think, because you probably have some listeners who love you and would love more content.
Probably. I just can't produce more, you know?
And that's how
tough.
I felt too at the beginning.
Yeah, it's tough because like, you know, I think what I've been kicking around is episodes where I workshop material, and that would be on like a Patreon or something like that. Just because when I started this show, I really wanted it to be two comedians talking. I used to ask comedians to bring a bit that they're working on. I would bring a bit that I'm working on, and it turned into like a little workshop. And what it eventually turned into was talking about the guest and figuring out who they are and how they got to where they are as a comedian, and then also sharing anything I've learned so far, you know? So like me as a first couple episodes, I would like to think knows a lot more about stand-up comedy now, and you could hear, if you listen back to the first one, you might be able to hear like how dumb I am, you know? So like it's turned into this like very even the point of this episode is, you know, there are at least 8 people I can think of that are stand-up comedians, and they co-host or they're a part of a podcast, and you know, and you've done the damn thing. So it's like, you know, this episode is for them, you know, and to really help them maybe take 1% of what you say and like turn it into something, you know?
Yeah, I don't know how much help I've been so far. I would say that collaboration is always a great idea. Mm-hmm. We collaborated with a lot of true crime podcasts coming up when we were getting started. So we were all trying to like help each other out and promote each other on our panels and our social media channels and on the show. We would definitely do a lot of that. We were very lucky. I would mention my friends at Going West earlier. They were a much bigger podcast than ours was, especially when we got going. Mm-hmm. And they like ended up shouting us out on their stories or something on Instagram, and they already had thousands of followers.
Cool.
So a lot of people found us that way. We were very lucky, and they're still like our best friends. We're going to CrimeCon at the end of this month, and we'll be
Vegas, right?
Yeah, we'll be in Vegas at CrimeCon, hanging out together like table by table. Mm-hmm. So I've met some great friends that way. But I would say open to collaboration. Working well with others, taking constructive feedback, which I think comedians are actually amazing at, more so than most professions.
You'd be surprised. We get constructive feedback from nonverbal expression and audio from people laughing immediately,
Yeah.
right? And then sometimes I've definitely done this. You walk off the stage, you be like, "That crowd sucks," and it's like, it's not me, it's them, you know. And then other times it's just like, God, I am the worst comedian of all time. Like I got to figure out what I got to change, you know. So sometimes it's like it's there or not, you know.
Yeah, they also say like my partner Andie, she doesn't read the comments or the reviews.
Can't read.
And I, she can't. That's
I'm
why
sorry,
she responds.
Andie.
That's why she responds to me.
Yeah.
And she's right. You probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
I have always liked reading the reviews, even the bad ones. I learn there's some things we can't change. Like Andie has a very specific voice, and we probably say I learned that I say a lot as filler. Like I'm more of a person. I just did it. Sometimes she says like a lot. She lives in California, so we excuse it.
Mm-hmm. We've got to tolerate it. Yep.
So you find out things about maybe vocal tics. And sometimes I just say to our editor, I was like, can you try to cut a couple of the likes or here? Because I don't know if I can change our vocal patterns at this point. But I try to learn from that. I try to learn if they say, this wasn't handled with sensitivity in the way that I think you guys could. I learned something recently, not recently, but like a year or two ago, that it's not called child pornography anymore. It's child sexual abuse material.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's because, pornography is something that people can consent to be involved with in a way that child can. It's child sexual abuse material. But we got a listener who wrote in and was like, hey, you guys really need to call it this. It's not called that anymore. So sometimes it's really helpful. Other times it's like, I hate them. And it's like, nothing, like it's nothing that we can do anything about. I think we got one that was like all caps, like they eat when they record, which we have never done. I was like, this is just inherently not true.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's kind of funny. We got one that said that our voices sounded like sex phone operators.
Yeah, actually, I didn't put that together, but like I can see why somebody would think that.
So we turned it into merch, that review, and we're like, for a good time, call 1-800-LOVE-MURDER.
Love that.
Yeah, because we were like, that's great. We kind of thought that one was amusing.
Yeah. I never even considered that, but yeah, that is kind of funny. That's actually pretty funny. Mm-hmm. Hell of a good slam. I think it's important to check the feedback for people being like, hey, this could be considered unsensitive. Like that's good feedback to pay attention.
Well, especially, I mean, it's different in comedy in some ways. In some ways, it's exactly the same, whether like a joke goes too far, and depending what audience you're doing it for. In true crime, we have a higher threshold, clearly, for like off-color jokes. And shockingly, we managed to walk that line, I think, because for most part, our reviews they really do manage to be respectful at the same time that they are saying what we're all thinking. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes you're thinking like, well, this guy's a real fucking asshole, But like other shows that maybe have more journalistic integrity wouldn't come out and say that.
You could just say integrity.
But I think we just decided to lean into who we were and how we would be talking about these cases when no one was listening.
Yeah.
And I think that works. So I think in order to have a successful podcast, it helps to have people who have knowledge or equipment, because that we got started because my husband already had an idea of how to produce these things. An awareness of marketing. We did put some money into Facebook ads.
Yeah, that's smart.
Early on. It was kind of where the audience lived. We have found that the biggest true crime audience are usually women in their 20s to 60s, thereabout. And a lot of those women were on Facebook.
Yep, that sounds right.
Yeah. So
it's the only social media platform where you change your marital status, by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and people like to, I still go on Facebook just for like messy drama.
Oh, it's so ugly on there.
It is. So it's like, hey, do you like messy drama? Mm-hmm. Well, here's a case where the messy drama gets so bad that somebody gets murdered. And so we found some people through that early on. We have gotten to a place now where everything's organic, so we don't pay for any marketing or advertising.
That's cool.
But it was worth putting like, $1,000 into when we first got started, and really targeting who we believed our listener was going to be. And then I think trying to put out the best content you possibly can week after week, having it on a routine schedule. People know on Wednesdays they get a new full-length Love Murder episode. Mm-hmm. And I think there was like 1 week a couple years ago where something had screwed up in the editing process. So it usually comes out at like 5 a.m. And it was like 8:30 in the morning and it wasn't out yet. And I had so many messages from people being like, what's going on? Why isn't there a new episode? And I was like, whoa, I didn't think anyone cared that much.
Yeah, well, that's nice. That's I feel like some people do that just to get, in their personal lives. Just to get, you didn't text me today. It's like, I'm going through something. Thanks for reaching out. Be like, I got attention.
It is, and I do think that there is a certain level of podcast hosts where there's a parasocial relationship, and so you have to decide like how much you want to foster that. And if you can genuinely care about your listenership and you want to talk to them and you want to communicate with them, it's also a great way to build a community that is passionate about what you do. Yeah,
it's it's. I'm trying to think about who I would even market to on the Facebook ads. Were doing great for me for like selling comedy tickets. And then eventually that wasn't working anymore. And then I started getting these messages from like, they were almost like Facebook ads that were showing up in between stories. They were like, ad fatigue? And I'm like, what? They just click here to hear from Meta about how to improve your ads. I'm like, fuck you, dude. Like, just do better.
Yeah, and we did come to the end of the road with that, where there was diminishing returns.
It sucks. I feel like I just learned it, and now it's like it was here and gone in like 2 months for me.
I think that's also how they get you. They're like, they do a really good job for a little while to get you hooked.
Yeah,
and then they're like, they'll keep putting money in the ad slot, hoping for the same return.
Oh, it sucks so much. I was having so much success. Now it's also summer, so I'm blaming that too. But.
Well, I think that you hopefully will have some people on the show that have larger audiences that can share their episode, and that's how you come into consciousness. Like, we'll share this episode.
I just mean selling tickets.
Selling tickets to comedy,
yeah. Because there was a show I put together up in Hopewell Junction, and I actually made money off the show. Because like usually, whenever I sell tickets, it's like just to pay the comedians, and just so everybody makes money for showing up and doing their time. As a producer, I'm very much just like, I don't need to make money off this. I care about stage time, and I care about helping out people that I think deserve a stage, and then usually the money goes into that. There was one show in particular where I was like, holy fuck, I'm actually making money off of this. And it funded all the other comedy shit I was doing, and then it died. So
I think finding out where that lightning in the bottle success came from and trying to recreate it is the only thing you can do.
I know, I gotta keep hunting down. I have to. I'm digging into it, even with this show here. Trying to grow it, like selling ads. Do you remember who like your first ad was? Do you still have them?
Gosh, I have them somewhere on Facebook. It was promoting certain episodes. It was basically that's how we did the ads. We basically would create a clip, like a small clip with the highlights from the episode to try to drum up some interest and be like, do you want to hear the whole story? Click here. And it would lead you right to like Apple Podcasts.
Sick.
Yeah.
I misspoke. I meant like your first advertisers.
Oh, like who my first sponsors were?
Yeah.
So we were approached by a podcast network, our old network. I'm not going to give them any buzz. No. We've since fallen out with them, obviously.
They can totally reach out to me, though. Available.
I was the CEO. His wife was a listener.
Okay.
And so we were still pretty small when he slid into our DMs and was like, hey, let's talk. And it was really funny because we were like... He was asking us like the number of downloads we got at the time. And I remember being like, oh, it's like X many. And he's like, oh, for one show? That's really good. And I was like, no, all month for all of our shows that air in a month. And he's like, okay, well, we'll still take you on. And they placed the first like host spoken ads for us. But it was a lot of stuff like supplements and shampoo. Like we still do like Quince. Shopify is a huge sponsor of ours. They do all ton of podcasts, but they've been working with us for years.
Which, by the way, Shopify, I actually do use you to sell merch. So
and that's actually they did our Shopify representative did a whole case study on LinkedIn about working with us because my partner Andie owns a store and she uses Shopify.
Oh. It's great. Reach out.
you should let Shopify know that you actually use the product because they are looking for hosts that have experience using Shopify.
Oh, cool.
So that would be an in. And that's the other thing is that when we start working with a podcast network, we're currently with Podcast One. We tell them what our interests are, or when they float sponsors by us because we have to approve the ones at least that are coming from our voice. We say how passionate we are about that product, whether we actually use it or not, or like we're like we could use it. One of my favorite sponsors right now is a weed sponsor.
Okay, cool.
They're Andie Cloud, and they are so great to work with, and it's been really fun. And I am shocked so far, no one has said anything about us having a pot sponsor negatively, which I was surprised by. I thought I
feel like that's kind of telling.
Yeah, exactly.
About what they think of you.
Yeah, they were like, of course, this is big. I think one of our first episodes, I was talking about watching this show that's on Investigation Discovery that's kind of was an inspiration behind starting Love Murder, was this show called Scorned, and then it's like Love Kills. And I was like, it's a great show to get really high to. So I guess I said that on the first episode. So maybe that's where Andie Cloud and us came together.
Like we targeted that word.
Yeah.
They looked up every episode that said hi. And yeah. What was I going to say? I've been shouting out Purple Mattress almost every other episode. I don't even know if they're still in business. You know,
Are they a sponsor? Or
they're not. I just do it because I use a Purple Mattress and I love Purple Mattress. Yeah.
So they should come on as a sponsor. I think the worst sponsorship thing that happened to me was that we had a match 3 type game come in, and it was called Switchcraft. And I got addicted to it. So I got to play it because I've never done one of these cell phone games or whatever. I've never played a Candy Crush or anything. I've never done it. But I'm like, oh, if it's sponsored, I want to make sure that
you know what you're talking.
I know what I'm talking about in analogy. And I'm like, I sat down. I'm 45 levels later. I love this game. And I was like, oh no, this is bad. I'm probably. Then I started buying gems and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, am I going to spend all the money I made on the game? I was like, they definitely bought their number one favorite person. So I was like, okay, you can't get high on your own supply here.
Are you still sponsored by them?
No, so the game went under and I got so upset about it.
You went through withdrawals?
I did.
Yeah.
Well, it ended up, I'm pretty sure I have undiagnosed ADHD. And so when I'm writing these scripts, I have to force myself to sit down and keep my phone in another room. And then I handwrite my scripts so every episode is a legal pad and it's all handwritten out, and every 5 pages I get a 5-minute break. And so I used to take my 5-minute break and do my Switchcraft, and then I'd be like, okay, 5-minute timer's up, I gotta get back to work. And they're like, we're so sorry, we're ending the game in a month, we're just pulling it. I was like, what am I gonna do for my brain breaks now? So that was probably the worst sponsorship thing happened. It was because I got hooked on what I was selling. That
would be me with FanDuel, if
Yeah,
because that would fit my market pretty well. But yeah, I'd just be like, all right, guys, this is podcast is brought to you by somebody send me money because I am out of money.
Yeah.
Lost all my money on FanDuel, and they're great, I guess. I need a car.
When we started getting sponsorships for real, which was, I would say a year and a half into our show, they always send you a bunch of stuff. So obviously you can use it and promote it. And at first we were just so excited to get free stuff.
Yeah.
My husband's like, no, that's the money is the point. The sponsorship, you get money. And we're like, but ooh, look at all this free stuff. It's so great. Yeah.
When I managed the gym, did you know that I used to work at the gym?
Yes.
Okay.
Dave told me.
Yeah, they've told you.
Oh wait, Mike told me. I'm confusing you guys.
I don't know. Maybe you've talked to trainer Dave. But there used to be 4 days when I worked there. Yeah, he terrifies you
a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'm terrified or intrigued.
I flirt with him so casually. I've said things to Dave out loud and in public that I would never say to a woman. Dave, what are you doing over there? Let me tear that up. And he's just he has a certain
way with his clients that I always, when he's going after it with one of those
Theraguns.
Yeah, his self-made Theraguns, and he's going to town on a client. I'm like, Mike, why don't you do that for me?
Yeah.
What?
Michael's like, I would have confused feelings.
I'm like, look at that treatment. Yeah. He's getting it right up in that glute.
Yeah, he's active.
Thorough.
When I worked there, the Kratom was a new product. Have you ever heard of Kratom before?
I've heard that it's a way that you can get out, it's supposed to be a gateway drug from alcoholism or certain substance abuse, but then people get addicted to it too.
It's highly addictive substance that is it's got stimulant qualities, it's got a lot of different and people get so addicted. But Kratom was brand new back then, and they were just a company that was just called Kratom hit us up and was like, hey, we want to send you a box of stuff, try it out, see what you think. And they were just hoping to have us sell it behind the front desk to people. So they sent a bunch of stuff, and then I like started to Google it, and then I was like looking into it, and I'm like, I don't know if I want this. And so like I just gave it to a gym member because I'm like, this is all a bunch of pre-workout stuff and like whatever. Do you want this? And the guy was like, sure. And then I never saw him again.
You never saw the guy you gave it to?
No, never. I don't even. Yeah, I hope he's okay.
Wow, this is a gym murder episode.
Yeah. I subtly killed somebody. Yeah.
I did. Speaking of the gym, when I first got into Cloud as a sponsor, they sent me a whole box of stuff, like wild stuff, like edibles, vapes, the whole thing. And I literally brought it into the gym. I gave a bunch to John. I was like, you guys take some of this.
Yeah. He's like, thanks.
Yeah, totally.
My girl.
John's the best. He's not there as often these days, but he's like the face of the gym.
Oh, yeah. Now he is. Yeah. He used to, he calls me Pop all the time.
Oh.
Yeah. Him and his brother. I hired his brother. I never hired John, but he wasn't ready at the time. He was still in school, but his brother.
He was like 10. That's why.
Yeah. Forever ago. Yeah. But his brother is like the best human being in the world.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
I like met him once and I was like, oh my God, you're John's brother. He's like, no, he's my brother.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, probably a good point.
Yeah. So handsome, that guy.
Yeah.
Holy shit. And a doctor. Yeah. No wonder. Cool. I don't know if I had any more questions. About your show. Did you have any questions for me?
Do you have any like sign off things that you do? You should like ask.
I do sign off things.
Yeah, what do you got?
I was gonna air it out. I was gonna figure out if we had anything
else to talk about. Yeah, I think that's about all I can think about. I mean, my tips are for getting started in podcasting more than comedy, but I think that what makes one creative area popular can work in a different. And I think other than already starting with having money and resources where you can buy advertising and marketing, besides that, if you don't have that going on for you, I think just being authentic and trying to reach your audience and getting your audience talking about you is the best way that you can sell tickets or get people to listen to your podcast.
I should get a scandal going.
You should get a scandal going.
Totally get a scandal
Don't
going.
kill anyone, though. I don't want to have to put you on my show.
Why? That would be great because you would finally understand how the victim felt to know the murderer, right?
That would be horrible. I don't want to have to write the Anne Rule book about you.
Yeah, no, the stranger across from me. It could be the sequel.
The stranger working out next to me.
Yeah, exactly. In that case, if I do murder somebody, still on the table. Just because it hasn't happened yet. Well, yeah, it will actually. I could call into the show, and you hear how good the voice is, right? I could call into the show, and you'd be like, "Yeah, so what did you do there?" I'm like, "No. I strangled with my thumb around. It was like a whole thing. It was cold that day, actually. I could really.
Do you accept this collect call from this penitentiary?
Yeah, Rikers Island.
Yeah.
Yeah. From Dave.
Oh, your voice got deeper in jail.
Oh yeah, I could. Well, I gotta survive.
You gotta make sure.
I'm used to being like the biggest animal in the building.
I know, you're a pretty big dude.
Yeah, I'm pretty wide. Yeah. If I were taller, I'd be like really formidable. But I think being under 6 feet tall really keeps me humble.
Yeah, you're like a refrigerator, just like.
Yeah, I'm like a college refrigerator. Like in the dorm room. They're like, this is just full of beer and food you're gonna regret later.
Yeah, exactly. Aw,
yeah,
that's a good metaphor.
Yeah, no, it's fucking true. It's very hurtful. All right, well, thank you so much for your time and coming onto this show. You're a fantastic guest. I really appreciate it.
This was fun. If you guys ever want any more true crime cases, head on over to Love Murder, or maybe we could do this again and we can do a part 2.
Hell yeah.
It's always good to see you at the gym too.
Mm-hmm. Can you plug the social? It's at.
Oh, like where? What ours? I think it's at Love Murder Pod on Instagram.
Okay.
We're also at Love Murder Pod on TikTok. I think we're slightly less active on TikTok, more than we should be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you just Google Love Murder Podcast or pop it in anywhere, we're the first thing that comes up. You'll know it's like
pretty big show.
It's not that big, but
it's so big.
Yeah, if you pop it into your Spotify or your Apple Podcast, it will come out. It's a red icon with like 2 little white broken heart faces.
Mm-hmm. I 10 out of 10 recommend. I know 30% of my audience is female. All of you should listen to that.
Also,
but also
dude,
the 70% of the guys.
Like it, guys.
Yeah.
We thought actually we were going to end up with a male audience because some of the material is kind of salacious, and we're like, guys would be so into this. And Mike says that we have the sense of humor of 12-year-old boys. So
we do. Yeah.
So I really do think like every once in a while we get a dude who's like, I know I'm not your target audience, but I love this show.
Yeah.
And I'm
yeah,
like,
me.
great.
I I enjoy the show. Like
Please.
I swore off of after college. I like swore off of like true crime and serial killers and all of that kind of stuff because it was just so saturated in my brain in college. So I'm just like, by the way, I was an art major. I just love this. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You were an art major like Hitler was an art major?
Yeah, exactly. You be my next painting. So I swore off it. But like when I met you and I heard you had a podcast and like you were so kind with your information to me, I'm like, I gotta check it out. And I actually started listening to episodes because one, there's a connection, right? But also there's just like you guys, you're aside from comedy, I do storytelling. You're a phenomenal storyteller.
Oh, thank
yeah,
you.
it's you. Great job. So like, it's great to hear that, and it's also just great to hear like the consistency in the patterns of these murders, and just think of like, damn, I can't believe these people thought they were going to get away with it.
Yeah, after over 300 cases now, and more if we count the current affairs, I guess you wouldn't be surprised that there's so many things these people have in common. I think when people say, you were saying it's educational about how to get away with murder, it's that you're going to get caught. There's just no way anymore, unless you're Israel Keys about it, where you're killing people that are completely unrelated to you in any capacity. There's no way you will ever get away with murdering your spouse. There's too much of a digital footprint. There's too much Big Brother. There's like everything. It's always watching. I think about it when I do like the self-checkout at Tops. I'm like, oh, like there's that's right there. You know, it's capturing everything.
And that's what will end up on the news too. You're like least flattering angle. So
it's you being like, oh,
yeah.
This is like then tapping your credit card
no
several
bags.
times.
I don't want bags. Yeah, that'll be on the news. Likeable is filmed and recorded with Radio Free Ryan Cliff. Thank you to our producers, Jen Hamoud and Matthew Rosenberg. And thank you to the Epicurean, which hosts us for each and every episode. Please come in, stop and shop, and maybe you'll see or catch us on the air. That'd be kind of cool. It's a comedy-based podcast. Sometimes we talk about podcasting, and we're experts in absolutely nothing. You kind of are. Please take us with a grain of salt and sarcastically, of course. I think that's some version of my closer.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you for listening, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah. And, trust your gut when it comes to love and comedy podcasting so no one ends up murdered.
Yeah, don't get murdered.
Don't get murdered.
And
but kill it out there.
Kill it on the stage.
But don't kill
the
them.
crowd. Yes. And seriously, we talked about this, audience. Do not murder people. This is a constant theme on the Likeable podcast. We say this almost at the conclusion of every episode. Please stop murdering people. If there's a serial killer that listens to this podcast, there probably are. Please stop doing it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And definitely don't frame us.
You're very, like, if anybody wants to kill Jesse's husband, if you're looking for a victim, all right, cool. Don't do that. Sorry about it. This is all right. Thank you. We're going to do music.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, you got jokes, yeah, you're insightful.